Welcome to week 2. So looking at the presentation list, this is your week 2 folder. This is your slideshow presentation for the week. And I've entered some example projects here to give you an idea of what it looks like. So you can kind of visualize what you want yours to look like. And then over here is the rubric. And I also remind you, don't forget about your Twitter post because that is really important. I find that students forget that, and then they're trying to do it at the end of the semester. So if we click on our week 2 folder, you'll notice here you've got the example that I told you I would provide for you. This is your presentation and this is your rubric. So first we'll take a look at the presentation. You'll notice here that I put video. This video that I'm recording right now is what will be linked right here. I'm not going to read this presentation to you. I want you to go through it and actually read each of the slides to understand the difference between um, copyright, fair use, understanding public domain, what each of those are, and what your responsibilities are as a teacher. So I've provided several slides here. This one is talking about how we've changed. Last time I was talking about digital natives, and this is a real good data point for you to see how much it has changed just from 2012 to 2017. Understanding digital citizenship. These 9 key learnings are really important because they kind of give you topics to think about when you're thinking about protecting your privacy, understanding who you are, and when you post things that goes out into the public and what that looks like. So this is very good for part of your project where you will have to show students how to protect their identity and teach them. So this will be a good slide for that. Again, is the standards for educators. You should be looking at these 7 standards for as educators. You'll notice here I put in parentheses where each of these will fall. So remember I told you your Twitter engagement was about you being a learner. It's also many of these others, but specifically you being a learner. And then you will be doing Google projects that will satisfy the standard for leader, collaborator, designer, facilitator, and analyst. And then this project is the one for citizen. So you've got a slide here on copyright, public domain, fair use. It's a quick little video on copyright law. What can you legally do? Here's a few resources to help you when it's time for you to complete your project. And this is the rubric. If you click here, it'll take you to the rubric so that you can see it. And then here again, the example folder, which you have access to in the week 2 folder. All right, if we look at the rubric, which I have here. Okay, so looking at the rubric for this assignment, you will create information, guidelines, and plans of action for digital citizenship and responsibility. This project will demonstrate your knowledge of ISTE Educator Standard 3, which is citizen, and I've linked those standards again here so you can go in. It doesn't just have the standard, it has information about what that means. It gets more deep. Please use the resources provided to you as well as other forms of research. So I've given you some links in that video, in that presentation, but I also want you to go out and do a little bit of research on your own to help you better understand each of these topics. So there's 4 things you have to do for this project. This is why you have an entire week to work on it. So don't procrastinate, do a little bit every day. The first one is copyright, fair use, and public domain. Create a presentation for your students. So this can be a Google slide, a PowerPoint, however you would like to create the presentation, age appropriate. This means that if you teach early childhood, it needs to be geared towards an early childhood student. If you teach high school, it needs to be geared towards a high school student. So it's age appropriate for your area of concentration. So create a presentation for your students that demonstrates your knowledge of these topics. You are teaching your students about copyright, fair use, and public domain. Okay, so if we come down here to the rubric, this is what you're looking for. Excellent. Age-appropriate presentation demonstrates knowledge of safe, legal, and ethical practices with digital tools and the protection of intellectual rights and property. That's what you're looking to provide for your students, okay? I made this rubric pretty simple to get a proficient. It's missing 1 to 2 criteria and or has some grammatical mistakes, and then developing is it's missing 3 or more criteria. And when I say criteria, that means age appropriate, demonstrates knowledge of safe, legal, and ethical practices with digital tools and the protection of intellectual rights and property. Okay, I tried to make that very clear. Next, digital citizenship. So this is number 2. You're going to create a lesson plan, an activity, a project, whatever you want. This one I'm giving you the option to create whatever it is that you think will best help you teach digital citizenship. Okay, so it says create a lesson plan, activity, project, etc. that details your efforts to provide knowledge of digital citizenship to your students. So in order for you to provide knowledge of digital citizenship, you have to understand what that means. So do a little research, understand digital citizenship, okay? And then create something. I've had students in the past create a lesson plan. I've had them create a game, an activity where students were partnering up, working together. So it can be anything that you want, but you're thinking of a way for that you can detail how to provide knowledge of digital citizenship to your students. Now, if we come down here to the rubric, it says, create a lesson plan, activity, project, etc. for learners that details efforts to provide knowledge of positive, socially responsible contributions and how to exhibit empathetic behavior online that builds relationships and community. Okay. If you look at the ISTE standards for educators, number 3 for citizen, these are the words that you're going to find. All right. So I tried to mirror it with the standard. And again, 2 and 1 are just missing criteria. Next, number 3, digital information literacy. You're going to create a presentation for your students, again, age appropriate, that demonstrates the importance of this topic, the importance of digital information literacy. If we go down here to the rubric, age appropriate presentation that promotes curiosity and critical examination of online resources. Promotes curiosity and critical examination of online resources. Okay, so again, if you're not quite sure what these words and terms are, go do some research and figure it out. Last one, digital identity. Create a letter to your parents. All right, these are your students' parents, detailing the ways in which you will protect their child's digital identity. So, how are you going to protect their child's digital identity? And detail a plan for how you will teach their children to protect their own digital identity. Okay, if you come down here to the rubric, it's basically the same. Parent letter includes management of students' personal data, digital identity, and protection of data privacy, as well as how you will teach the children how to protect their own identity. Thinking here about something as simple as really good passwords, right? That is something to protect their identity. There's many more ways that they can protect their own identity, but that is one, okay? So this is the rubric. Again, when I am assessing your work, I have the rubric up and I have your work up, and I'm just looking for the criteria in your work, and that is how I grade you. Right, if we go back to the folder where the example is, I put one really good example. This is one student's work for all of the pieces of the assignment. Okay, so you've got here copyright, fair use, and public domain. And this is for fifth grade, but you can kind of get a feel for what it looks like. So here she's teaching about copyright to her students, fair use, public domain, a video, right? And then asking students to write down questions, comments, or concerns after watching the video. This one is an activity. So this is one of the activities that was required, cyberbullying and bullying activity. Digital citizenship. So again, a presentation. What is digital citizenship? Going through cyberbullying, hate speech. Awesome. And then here's the activity sheet that goes with it. Digital identity. This is the letter to the parents. And digital information literacy, another presentation. What is digital information literacy? Kind of going through examples, what that looks like, links to other places. And then, yeah, you did it. So I don't want you to use this as a template. I just want you to use this as an example of what does this project look like? Because there are so many pieces of it. So when I open your digital citizenship folder, I should see several things in it because you are required to do 4 different things, right? So I like to give this example so that you can get a feel for what the expectation is. Again, don't use this as a template. I'm not expecting you to, actually, I don't want you to copy any of this. I just want you to look at it to get an idea. All right, if we go back, so your week 2 folder, you have the example folder, you have the rubric, you have the presentation. If we go back to the presentation list, you've got the rubric here. This one is a forced copy. So when you click on it, it will say, would you like to make a copy? Yes, make a copy. And then you can move it into the correct folder. If you need help with that, let me know and I'll be glad to help you with that. All right, that's it. That's week 2. If you have questions or need help, please feel free to reach out.